In 1920, two educators gathered the finest writing of Negro authors into a single volume made for Negro boys and girls. They called it The Upward Path. For the first time, colored children could open a book and find a mirror of their own race's traditions, struggles, and aspirations, narrated by its own heroes, poets, and pioneers. Until The Upward Path, no collection of stories and poems by Negro writers existed that colored children could read with pleasure and pride. Myron Pritchard, principal of Boston's Everett School, and Mary White Ovington, chairman of the board of the NAACP, set out to fill that lack. They brought together poems, stories, sketches, and addresses that bear witness to the richness of Negro literature. Robert Moton of Tuskegee wrote the introduction, insisting that no race's education is complete until its children know the heroes and history of their own people. Every selection, the editors promised, was chosen to teach a lesson and to stir a deeper pride in the young readers, who, they said, so largely held the fortunes of their race in their own hands. First, the volume itself, the first reader of its kind, and the educators who built it as a mirror for the race. To the present time, the foreword declared, there had been no collection of stories and poems by Negro writers which colored children could read with interest and pleasure, and in which they could find a mirror of the traditions and aspirations of their race. Realizing this lack, the editors brought together work that bore eloquent testimony to the richness of the literary product of Negro writers. They drew on Booker T. Washington's Up from Slavery, on W.E.B. Du Bois, on Paul Laurence Dunbar, and on poems first printed in the Crisis. It was their hope that this little book would find a large welcome in every section of the country and would bring good cheer and encouragement to young readers who, in their own hands, so largely held the fortunes of their race. The book had distinguished makers. Myron T. Pritchard was principal of the Everett School in Boston. Mary White Ovington chaired the board of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Robert Russa Moton, who had succeeded Booker T. Washington as principal of Tuskegee Institute, 1619, 1 year before the Pilgrims reached Plymouth, and in that time he had become intertwined in all the nation's history. The volume opens with Washington's own image of the man in the street, looking and striving upward. However poor his present plight, the thing he aims at stands out clear and distinct above him, inspiring him with hope and ambition in his struggle upward. The Upward Path begins in the schoolroom, where discipline, sacrifice, and the hunger to learn open the first doors. Paul Laurence Dunbar's story opens the reader. In Washington, the widow Hannah Davis and her frail little daughter watch Bud march with Company A in the great competitive cadet drill. At the climax, marching by fours to fix bayonets, Bud fumbles and drops his steel. His company is disgraced, and he creeps away in misery, ashamed to wear his uniform again. But the next day, an army officer who had judged the drill addresses the school. The most significant thing he saw, he says, was the cadet's conduct afterward. The boy did not pause, did not even turn his head, but moved on in one of the finest bits of self-control he had ever seen in any youth. Had he stopped to recover the weapon, the whole movement would have collapsed. The officer shakes Bud's hand, and the boy goes home at last to brush his uniform. Booker T. Washington's chapter tells how, while working in a coal mine, he overheard two miners describe a great school in Virginia where poor but worthy students could work out the cost of their board. From that moment, he was on fire to reach the Hampton Normal and Agricultural Institute. First, he served in the home of the strict Mrs. Viola Ruffner, who taught him that everything must be clean, prompt, and honest. Lessons as valuable, he said, as any he ever learned. he reached Hampton with a surplus of exactly 50 cents. The head teacher, doubting this travel-worn boy, told him to sweep a recitation room. He swept it 3 times and dusted it 4. She rubbed her handkerchief over every surface, and finding not one particle of dust, she said quietly, "I guess you will do to enter this institution." William H. Holtzclaw, a Tuskegee graduate who founded the Utica Institute, describes the hardships of learning in Mississippi. Unable to use the church, he began his school in the open air under the trees, his pupils ranging from 6 years old to 40. They moved into an abandoned house where the rain came through the roof and through the sides alike. He taught in an overcoat and rubbers, while his assistant stood on a bench to keep her feet from the water. In another sketch, he recalls going to school under difficulties, put to work at 4, walking lonely forests at 6, sitting on pine benches that oozed rosin. When the teacher ordered every pupil dressed in white, his resourceful mother cut up her own Sunday petticoat overnight to make beautiful white suits for her 3 children. W.E.B. Du Bois remembers teaching in the hills of Tennessee while a student at Fisk. He hunted a country school on foot down the hot July roads until he found a tiny community beyond the railways, in the shadow of one blue hill. There he met Josie, a thin, earnest girl of 20 who longed above all things to learn. His schoolhouse was a log hut where a colonel had once sheltered his corn, with great chinks between the logs for windows and rough plank benches without backs. Nearly 30 children came, their faces shading from pale cream to deep brown, clutching Webster's blueback spellers. Du Bois felt the first shadow of what he called the veil when the white commissioner who hired him offered him dinner, then ate first, and he alone afterward. For the youngest readers, fables and fairy tales, and a black fairy who carries the memory of Africa itself. Augusta Bird's gentle story follows Anna Margaret, who finds it simply awful to be the baby of the family, always left behind as her bigger sisters, Ruth and Edith, race to the pump. One morning, she climbs from her crib and, to her own surprise, draws on her stockings and laces her shoes. Later, chasing the others, she stops for a little black chick trailing far behind its mother hen, different from the older chicks and unable to keep up. Determined to help, she fetches a needle and tries to sew cloth wings onto the struggling biddy so it can fly and never be left. When her mother asks if she knows she is hurting the little one, Anna Margaret answers softly that she does not, but that she knows what it is to be always runned off and left. Angelina Grimke's fairy tale tells of 2 little orphan boys, beaten and worked by a cruel old couple until they had forgotten how to laugh. A tiny gray lady appears in the moonlight and advises them to journey to the land of laughter, far to the east. They set out at dawn and walk for many days. On the road, they meet old men who offer them the land of riches, the land of power, and the land of sacrifice. But each time the boys politely refuse, for they have come only to learn to laugh again. At the gate, a gentle woman tells them, no one who cannot smile may enter. They practice all night, return 3 mornings, and at last smile so beautifully that she kisses them and unlocks the gate. There they learn to laugh, and laugh on until they die. Fenton Johnson answers a child's question. 9-year-old Annabelle, reading Grimm on the lawn, wonders whether there is any such thing as a colored fairy, for in her book they are all white. At once, a tall, regal, dark-faced fairy appears, Amenophis, the lily of Ethiopia, who has lived 5,000 years beside the river Niger. She shows Annabelle visions in a woodland pool, black blacksmiths giving fire and iron to all the world, the gold of old Ghana and the bronzes of Benin, great cities of pyramids, and then conquest, burning, and the long horror of the slave ships she guided westward. It had been her hope, she says, to build in the New World a race strong enough to redeem their brothers. She promises to return only when the race is redeemed and the brotherhood of all men has come. Several pieces teach by fable and example. In A.O. Stafford's Animal Tale, a clever little rabbit blinds a watching goose with wood dust and escapes the dog who meant to smoke him out. In Joseph Cotter's The Boy and the Ideal, a mule boasts of his heels, a hog of his snout, and a snake of its sting, but the boy follows a star in his life. In the end, the snake lies dead of its own bite, while the boy journeys on. Lottie Dixon's His Motto shows a colored boy, Robert Hilton, who has built his own 60-foot wireless aerial and rescues a scornful businessman's urgent message in half an hour. On his wall hangs Lincoln's pledge, "I will study and make ready, and maybe my chance will come." The humbled man gives him his chance. Now the heroes of freedom, the men who broke chains, escaped bondage, and proved the genius of the race before the world. Dubois recounts the life of Toussaint L'Ouverture. On the French island of Haiti, where slavery centered, 452,000 black slaves rose in revolt on August 22, 1791. Toussaint joined the Maroon bands and rose to chief command, acquiring complete control over the blacks in war and in politics alike. His own generals trembled before him. By 1800, he was master of the island and gave it a constitution. Napoleon, dreaming of an American empire, sent 25,000 men to subdue him. War and yellow fever decimated the French, but Toussaint was treacherously seized and shipped to France, where he died in a cold prison on April 7, 1803. Wendell Phillips set his name above Washington's. His resistance broke Napoleon's dream, so that France sold Louisiana for a song, expanding America by a despised Negro's hand. Frederick Douglass tells in his own words how he escaped slavery. On Monday, the 3rd of September, 1838, he bade farewell to the city of Baltimore. His success, he insists, was due to address rather than to courage. Borrowing a sailor's protection paper headed with the American eagle, which described a man much darker than himself, he dressed in a red shirt, tarpaulin hat, and black cravat, and boarded the train already in motion to avoid scrutiny. When the conductor reached the Negro car, Douglass said he never carried his free papers to sea. The merest glance at the eagle satisfied the man, who took his fare and passed on. Through Maryland and Delaware, past acquaintances who nearly knew him, his heart beat like a hunted fox's. Minutes were hours until he reached Philadelphia and then New York. In less than 24 hours, a free man. W. H. Krogman's tribute mourns Douglass at his death and calls him the greatest man the race had yet produced on this continent. Born a slave, he was great not because of his environment, but in spite of it, leaving a name as clean and spotless as driven snow. Krogman remembers first seeing him at Faneuil Hall in 1872. Over 6 feet in height, broad-shouldered, his strongly leonine face and flashing eyes swaying a surging multitude. Without a single day of schooling, he had acquired a fund of knowledge that would shame many a college graduate, and his writings were models of pure English. Krogman traces the eventful life, the escape, the first anti-slavery speech, the magical trip to England, the editorship of the North Star, his wartime service raising black troops and securing them pay equal to that of the whites. William Wells Brown profiles Benjamin Banneker, born in Maryland in 1732, of pure African parentage. His father was a slave. His free mother purchased the family's freedom and a few acres of land. Banneker's entire schooling came from an obscure country school, and he had finished studying before he was 15. Yet he read everything he could lay hands on, and when a wealthy neighbor, George Ellicott, lent him books on astronomy and a few old, imperfect instruments, Banneker taught himself to calculate the motions of the sun and moon. Without help from any person or book, he completed a set of calculations, then published almanacs in Philadelphia for the years 1792 through 95. The best scholars opened correspondence with him. Thomas Jefferson, then president, invited him to Monticello, though by then he was too infirm to make the journey. John Cromwell tells of Paul Cuffe, born in 1759 near New Bedford, the son of an African-born father and an Indian mother. Self-taught in navigation, he became a skilled seaman who instructed both whites and blacks in the art. Before the Revolution ended, he refused to pay a personal tax, arguing that free colored people did not enjoy the rights of citizenship. His appeal, the first on record by a man of African descent in behalf of his civil rights, helped win the vote in Massachusetts. Surviving pirates and capture, he built a small fleet, including the brig Traveler. A devout Quaker, he formed friendly societies and consulted Wilberforce and Clarkson in England. In 1815, he carried 38 free Negroes to Sierra Leone, paying $25,000 from his own pocket, with 2,000 more names awaiting passage when he died in 1817. William Pickens offers Lincoln to colored children as a model of greatness risen from obscurity. He was the first president wholly American, an unmixed child of the Western Plains, born in the South and reared in the North. From a $5 fee before a justice of the peace, he rose to write his second inaugural, which Pickens calls the greatest utterance of man, though all his schooling added together was less than 1 year. Born of a father who could not write his name, he himself wrote the Proclamation of Emancipation, which Pickens ranks beside Magna Carta and the Declaration of Independence. The lesson, he insists, to white and black alike is union. He who degrades his neighbor's children undermines the future of his own. Together we rise and together we fall. Of all the presidents, only Washington and Lincoln did the American people style father. Across ice and jungle, colored pioneers carried the flag and the gospel to the farthest ends of the earth. Matthew Henson tells of standing at the top of the earth. Peary's own words open the chapter, praising Henson as a better dog driver and sledge handler than any man living save the best Eskimo hunters, his chosen companion on every expedition since 1887. In 40 below cold, on the final dash past Captain Bartlett's farthest north, Henson gauged the distances Peary trusted. Crossing a lane of moving ice on the 3rd of April, he plunged through into the freezing water, and faithful old Utah seized him by the nape of the neck, the way one grabs a dog, and hauled him out. On the 7th of April, 1909, Peary took his observation and gave the word to plant the stars and stripes at the North Pole. Henson felt a savage joy that fate had chosen him, a lowly member of his race, to be there. Lieutenant Henry Ossian Flipper recalls his first day at West Point, the 20th of May, 1873. With his mind full of the horrors suffered by former cadets of color, he approached tremblingly yet confidently. As he crossed the area of barracks, cadets crowded the windows and watched his unpretending passage with as much astonishment as if they were watching Hannibal cross the Alps, and their jeers were most insulting. He was ordered about, made to knock at an open door, drilled into rigid military posture, and 3 times in 2 hours a corporal threw his carefully arranged effects upon the floor. Knowing nothing of military terms, he did not even understand the word tattoo. Thus, he wrote, began the career of the 5th colored cadet, the 4 before him being Smith of South Carolina, Napier of Tennessee, Howard of Mississippi, and Gibbs of Florida. William Henry Shepherd, the Presbyterian missionary, fills his Congo sketch with wonders. At Lukonga, a 25-foot boa constrictor crushed the mission's only donkey and was shot by the missionaries, who turned it over to the natives for a great feast. Tiny jiggers burrowed under the travelers' toenails, and one night a band of ferocious driver ants filled the cabin, the bed, his very nose, driving him out until boys with torches came to his rescue. When famine threatened, Chief Nangaliama's people begged for meat, and Shepherd waded among a dozen great hippopotami and shot 2, 4, or 5 tons of meat that ran the town wild with delight. What struck him most was the people's knowledge. From the 30-foot boa to the tiniest insect, every animal, bird, fish, tree, flower, and healing root was known and called by its name, even by the little children. Shepherd's boldest journey took him into the forbidden land of the Bakuba, whose king, Lukenga, allowed no foreigner to enter his country. Having secretly learned the Bakuba dialect from traders and tax collectors, Shepherd led his caravan north through forests, swamps, and the haunts of wild beasts. When the king's fighting men came to arrest the chief who had sheltered him, Shepherd astonished them by pleading in their own tongue. The royal council decided he must be a Makuba, an early settler whose spirit had gone abroad and now returned. He was welcomed to the capital, where King Lukenga, more than 6 feet tall and crowned with eagle feathers, rose from a throne of carved ivory, his feet resting on lion skins, 300 wives about him. Shepherd judged the Bakuba dignified, graceful, and honest, the finest-looking race he had seen in Africa, supreme in weaving, carving, and smelting. Benjamin Brawley honors David Livingstone, the Scottish missionary and explorer. When he began his work in 1849, nearly all of Africa between the Sahara and the Dutch settlements was unknown territory. By his death in 1873, he had brought that whole region within the view of civilization. He crossed the continent to Luanda, discovered Victoria Falls on the Zambezi, and found lakes Nyassa, Tanganyika, and Bangweolo. What set him apart, Brawley writes, was not his devotion, but his conception of the task. A missionary must be a Christian statesman and a director of commerce, if need be, working to abolish the desolating slave trade. He called himself only a morning star shining in the dark, laboring for a glorious future he would never see. After he died at Chitambo's village, his devoted men Susi and Chuma carried his body over 800 miles to the coast. When the World War came, the Negro answered with the musket and the band alike, and earned undying glory in France. Emmett J. Scott, Special Assistant to the Secretary of War, describes how Negro music stirred France during the World War. "You cannot defeat a singing nation," an observer said, and General Pershing cabled, "Send me more singing regiments." From reveille to taps, the colored soldier was always at some musical stunt, on harmonica, banjo, or trumpet. His music, intensely American, helped answer the propaganda of German agents who sought to break his loyalty. The marvelous jazz bands kept French feet patting. General Pétain, it is said, had the time of his life listening, and when a colored band halted at Buckingham Palace, King George and Queen Mary heard the lively airs with undisguised enthusiasm. The band scored heavily with all 3 great Allied powers, rendering their national anthems with a brilliant touch and a matchless finish that none but a colored band could give. Scott records the achievement of the Old 15th, the 369th Infantry, formerly the 15th New York National Guard. Serving as an integral part of a French division, the regiment joined the Great Offensive at Maisons-on-Champagne on September 26, 1918, driving the Germans back over 7 kilometers and winning the entire regiment the French Croix de Guerre, with 171 men cited individually. A month later, it gained another honor. Marching as advance guard of the 2nd French Army, it became the first unit of all the Allied armies to reach the River Rhine. Its historian could record that the regiment never lost a man captured, a trench, or a foot of ground, that it alone bore a state name and carried a state flag, and that it saw the first and longest service of any American regiment, 191 days under fire. 2 short pieces close the war chapter. Ralph Tyler tells how a colored unit was ordered to take a difficult objective held by German machine guns. Warned of the nest ahead, Captain Fairfax answered, "I only know we have been ordered to go forward, and we are going." His last words before the charge, in which he and Captain Green fell with 62 men, words matching Sergeant Kearney's old cry that the flag never touched the ground. Then a young lieutenant of the 92nd Division writes home on Armistice morning, the 11th of November, 1918. He forms his platoon in the woods, commands them to unload rifles and pistols, and reads the order ending hostilities at 11 o'clock. Veterans who had laughed at machine gun fire broke down and cried like babies, while a French church bell rang far behind the line its song of joy and thanksgiving. The race's gifts of song, soil, and stage, from the spirituals in the field to the Shakespearean stage of Europe. The reader treasures the music of the race. James Weldon Johnson's poem, O Black and Unknown Bards, asks how the slave singers, in their darkness, came to touch the sacred fire and pour out melodies like Steal Away to Jesus and Nobody Knows the Trouble I See. Not even the great German master, Johnson writes, ever heard in his dream of harmonies a theme nobler than Go Down Moses. These untaught singers, he marvels, sang a race from wood and stone to Christ. Beside them stands Phillis Wheatley, brought to Boston as a slave child in the 1750s, kindly treated and educated, who became one of America's well-known early poets. Her hymn to the evening calls our breasts the living temples of God. Through spiritual and verse, the children learned that their people's song helped make history when time was young. William J. Simmons profiles Ira Aldridge, placed at the head of all Negro actors. Born near Baltimore in 1804, 6 feet tall and graceful, he was apprenticed to a ship carpenter before the great actor Edmund Kean encouraged his ambition. He first appeared as Othello at London's Royalty Theatre and went on to Covent Garden and the provinces, then through Germany and Russia, playing in English while his whole support answered in the language of the country, an experiment thought impossible until he triumphed at it. So real was his Othello that an actress screamed with genuine fright, and a young man in St. Petersburg, it is said, was so affected that he fell ill and died. The King of Prussia conferred on him the title of Chevalier and the First Medal of Art. Yet in all his triumphs, Simmons notes, Aldridge never forgot the humble race with which he was identified. 2 practical voices speak for the land. William J. Edwards, founder of the Snow Hill School, names the greatest menace of the South, the loss of the soil's fertility, worn out by 50 years of cotton with nothing returned. Where 40 acres once gave 25 bales, they now give 8. Only the rotation of crops and a liberal use of manure can restore the phosphorus and nitrogen that have been exhausted. Negro starvation, he warns, would come first, but white starvation would surely follow. From the life of Scott Bond, born a slave and now a wealthy Arkansas farmer, comes a homelier lesson. Doubting a newspaper's claim of 900 bushels of artichokes to the acre, he planted some himself, dug half a bushel from a single stalk, and saw millions of dollars deposited in all these lands for anyone who would think right and hustle. At last, a pledge, handed from the elders to the youth, who hold in their own hands the fortunes of their race. As the reader nears its end, it lifts into pledge and prophecy. James Weldon Johnson's 50 Years, written for the half-century of emancipation in 1913, looks back 3 centuries to a naked, shivering score on Virginia's shore, now grown a race 10 million strong, an upward, onward marching host. This land is ours by right of birth, he declares, and ours by right of toil. Remember that the flag's first crimson stripe was dyed by Crispus Attucks' willing blood, and never has one black, treason-guided hand been raised against it. Courage, he urges, faith in your God-known destiny, for we are part of some great plan. William C. Jason adds that young people are the lifeblood of the nation, the pillars of the state, in whose unfolding lives the pages of history will tell of deeds noble or base. The book closes with a pledge by Kelly Miller, dean at Howard University, an oath of Afro-American youth meant to be spoken aloud. I will never bring disgrace upon my race, it begins, by any unworthy deed or dishonorable act. I will live a clean, decent, manly life, and will ever respect and defend the virtue and honor of womanhood. I will uphold and obey the just laws of my country and encourage others to do likewise. I will not allow prejudice, injustice, insult, or outrage to cower my spirit or sour my soul, but will ever preserve the inner freedom of heart and conscience. I will not be overcome of evil, but will overcome evil with good. I will develop the best powers within me and quicken the sense of racial duty, so that my race shall become a bond of ennoblement and not a byword of reproach. From a dropped bayonet to the North Pole, from a Mississippi schoolhouse to a kingdom on the Congo, the upward path gathered the heroes, fables, and songs of a people into a single book for its children. Its makers believed that no education is complete until a child knows the noble souls of his own race. Booker T. Washington's image gives the book its name. The man who is down, looking up, may now and then catch a glimpse of heaven, while the thing he strives toward stands out clear above him, inspiring hope in his struggle upward. Spoken across a century, the reader's closing oath still asks the young to overcome evil with good and to make of their race a bond of ennoblement.